verse that I recited is from Surah Araf, verse number 31. In fact, continuing from the tafsir of Surah Hadid, I will just mention very briefly where we had left off, and then we'll talk under the verse that I recited today. We were discussing the conditions for infaq in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the terminology which was used in the previous verse, a beautiful loan, qarzan hasana, tell us that loan is of different types. Some are good, some are cheap, and some are even unworthy, according to this. In Quran, there are many verses which describe valuable infaq. Some of them have been used by the commentators, and they have counted up to 10 conditions by collecting these verses. We'll go through those 10 conditions where we had left off yesterday. First is that infaq should be given from the best part of your wealth, and not from the wealth which is of lesser value. And so this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says beautiful loan, this beauty should be referring towards the money that is earned halal, obviously, and also the most valuable of your earnings, and not the lesser value. And it says in Surah Baqarah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum wa mimma akhrajna lakum min al-ard. So, O you who have faith, spend of the good things you have earned through the trade and the like of what you bring forth from the earth. So the good things that you have earned. So obviously it's referring towards the most beautiful of the loan. Here it is referring toward the best from the earnings of you. Tayyibat ma kasabtum. Not just anything, but the tayyibat that you have earned from your living. So second thing, it says it should be from the wealth which is part of your needs as well. That which you yourself is also using. It's not something which is just laying around for years and you don't need it, but the one that you're always in need. From the earning that you use and the earning that you're spending, from that, so that there will be barakat in your earning as well as the one that you are giving away. It says in Quran, Surah Hashr 9, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. They prefer others over themselves, even if they personally are in need. So what are you in need? You're in need of that wealth that you are earning yourself. Make sure that you go ahead and keep a share for others in that. Thirdly, it says infaq should be done to those who are most in need. لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الَّذِينَ أُحْصِرُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Baqarah 273. The charity is for the poor who have been restricted for the cause of Allah, unable to move about in the land. So therefore, go ahead and help those who are the most in need. And that's why you see any kind of charity from the wajibat and from the mustahabat, the first thing is the mustahiqeen, those who are the most deserving of it. Fourthly, it says infaq done secretly is preferable. You don't have to do it openly. Sometimes it has to be done openly to encourage others. So the same ayah talks about how giving openly is good, but giving it in secrecy is actually even better than that. It says, وَإِن تُخْفُوهَا وَتُؤْتُوهَا الْفُقَرَاءَ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Surah Baqarah 271. It said, and if you conceal your charities and give them to the poor, it is better for you. Yeah, even if you did it openly, it is still better for you. It is still good for you. But when you do it with concealment, you're actually doing two things. You're helping this person out. You're keeping him from being ashamed because other people are looking at it. And also you're concealing this good deed of yours so that others don't look at this deed and start praising you all around. So there are three things that are being achieved with this. Fifthly, it says infaq must be done or must not be accompanied with bragging and boasting, reproach and affronting. Baqarah 264 says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. If you look at these ayat, Baqarah 271, Baqarah 273, Baqarah 274, seems that the batch of 260 up to 270 or so is all talking about fuqara and is all talking about infaq and it's all talking about charities. So if you ever want to speak or if you ever want to go ahead and read about infaq, these are the ayat lined up one after another talking about different aspects of infaq. So it says, 264, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. O you who have faith, do not render your charities void by reproaches and affronts. Sixth, it says infaq should be accompanied with sincerity. Yunfiquna amwalahum ibtigha marzatillah. Baqarah 265. It says those who spend their wealth seeking only Allah's pleasure. They're not trying to seek pleasure of so-and-so, the kings, the presidents, the big people in the society. No, they're trying to gain the pleasure and the satisfaction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the utmost ikhlas and sincerity in their claim. Seventh, it says, consider your infaq small and unworthy, even if it's big and invaluable. This is very difficult for a lot of us. It's let alone doing good deed and doing charity is big enough for us, let alone counting those things that we're giving away to be small and unworthy. It says in Surah Muddassir, verse number 6, وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ. It says, and do not think that by doing such good deeds, you have done a great favor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, count it small. Do not make it so big. This is also another, in fact, this is one of the batches, or one of the branches rather, of this previous ayah that we had recited as far as seeking pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you go dig deep into sincerity, one of the branches of sincerity is actually not even counting your act to be too big or too valuable. Rather, consider that to be small and invaluable. 8th, it says, infaq should be from the wealth which is dear to you. We read in Surah Al-Imran, verse number 92, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You can never have extended virtue and righteousness unless you spend part of what you dearly love. Just spending some on giving away things which you really don't have any attachment anymore. For example, you have this, these clothes laying in your basement for years, this, used up mattress laying in your basement forever, and you go ahead and give it out to those who are in need. There's nothing wrong with it. You should go ahead and still help out with the stuff that you're not using, but you don't really feel when you give those things out. Why? Because that thing is not really dearly loved by you. It's not really attached with you anymore. You had discarded it long ago. So when you go ahead and give something out to poor and the needy, make sure it is from those things which is dearly loved or which is dearly attached to you. When there's some sort of attachment, when you're giving it away, this is where sort of a training process comes into play, how you can let go of this world and the possessions of this world when you're leaving this world. And then we see, never consider yourself to be the real owners. Rather, think of yourself as the median between the Khaliq and the Khalq. Surah Hadid, verse number 7, we recited. It says, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ فِيهِ. And spend out of that wherein He has made you successors. So you're only successors, you're only inheritors, you're only mustakhlifin. You're not the real owner. Lahu mulku samawati wal ard. It belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, before anything, infaq should be from halal earning, since God will only accept it, that which is pure. It says in Surah Ma'idah, verse 27, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That Allah only accepts from those who are muttaqeen. So if it's not from the pure wealth, and if it's not from the halal earning, and it is not done for these reasons, then obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be accepting it. And these obviously were the verses in Surah Ma'idah 27 that I recited, where the comparison between Habil and Qabil was being done. Where Qabil was saying that my charity will be better, or I will kill you other, and so on and so forth. And Habil was saying that Allah only accepts from those who are muttaqeen. And this is where Qabil goes ahead and kills Habil. Also we read, these were all the verses from Quran which counts the 10 conditions, if you want to put alongside with infaq. Here we find in a hadith from Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, لا يقبل الله صدقة من غلول. He said, Allah will never accept infaq from the wealth acquired with cheating or khayanat, or by, taking someone else's rights away. So obviously, if the story of that famous story that I'm sure you've heard many times, in the time of our sixth Imam, a person who was stealing, and after stealing, he was going ahead and giving it as charity to the poor. So someone informed Imam about this person. Imam followed him along, saw him that he went to, a place where they were cooking bread, and then he, took some bread while the guy wasn't looking, the owner wasn't looking, and he hid it in his pocket. And then he moved along and he went to, a vendor where the person was selling fruits. He was talking to him. As soon as he looked away, he picked up a few fruits and he hid them in his pocket, wherever, in his bag. And then he walked away. And he went along. On the way, he saw a poor person. He gave bread over there. He saw, another person destitute. He gave away the fruits. Imam went up to him and he said, "What are you doing?" And he, not realizing that who Imam was, he said, "It seems like you have not studied Quran." He said, "What happened? I have studied Quran." "Yes, I have. I know Quran a little bit." Imam did not reveal who he was. He said, "Have you not read that ayah which says, the one who comes with one hasana, man ja'a bil hasana falahu ashr. The one who comes with one good deed, there are 10 rewards for it." Imam said, "Yes." He said, "So what are you trying to prove?" He said, "Look, I did, but the one who comes with one bad deed, there's only one jaza for that individual. So for one good, you get 10. For one bad, you get only one. So I did 2 bad deeds, by stealing. So I get 2, obviously, punishments for that. But I, at the same time, did 2 good deeds. So I get 10 rewards for each. It still is a good transaction that I have made. Imam said, have you not read the ayah which says, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ? Allah only accepts it from those who are muttaqeen. Muttaqeen are the ones who have fear of Allah, fear of stealing from someone, fear of usurping someone's right. You have stolen from someone, therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be accepting this act of yours. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept any infaq which is done from the path of khiyanat and cheating. Infaq is a spending, whereas israf is a squandering. Today I wanted to, that's why I mentioned those first 10 conditions, wanted to very briefly talk about this ayat from Surah Araf, verse number 31. It says, O children of Adam, dress well when attending the mosques, eat and drink, but do not be excessive, for God does not love those who are excessive. The reason behind this discussion today is that obviously this is a month of Ramadan. In Ramadan we are geared to, especially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon us this special ability that we're able to avoid so many things which are halal for us on normal days. So we have this, we excel obviously in this month of Ramadan to do extraordinary things. Why not focus on things which are ordinary and they're all along the year? We should be very, very careful about them and wary of those things. The terminology Ya Bani Adam is addressing to all mankind. Khudhu zinatakum could be translated differently. Sometimes it says zinat is, even the children are referred to as the zinat. It says al-mal wal-banud, zinatul hayat ad-dunya wal-akhirah. And this is where we see our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. At the time of Salat, he said, while in Masjid, he would put on best of the clothes. And when he was asked, he said, Inna Allah yuhibbul jamal fatajammalu li rabbi. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves jamal, the beauty. And I beautify myself and I put on the zinat for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we got to be careful. When we're coming into the masajid, make sure that we are dressed in accordance with that. Because what we will be doing, we'll be doing ibadat over here. We'll be praying over here. There's dress code for every occasion. You go to a wedding, you dress accordingly. You go to work, you dress accordingly. You go to gym, you dress accordingly. You go to, workout, you dress according. Gym and workout, I guess, could be the same. So there are different places, different ways of clothing. There's a different clothing that you have for weekend as opposed to weekdays. But when you come to masjid, it seems like people, when they go to gym, they're wearing those same dress. They bring it in here. They're wearing the same thing in the masjid as well. So clothes which are not appropriate for masjid, make sure, especially for the kids and the younger ones, when we bring in them, this is actually part of their upbringing, that they should learn that you're coming to a sacred place. You should be dressed well. Quran addresses us to dress well, so that when we come over here, we are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we are appropriately dressed. Discussion on israf. Our sixth Imam said, wealth is a gift and trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hands of insan. Therefore, one must not waste when spending it. So israf or asrafa, yusrafa, israfan is actually ifrat. So if you look at the word israf, is actually ifrat. Why? To waste or squander is to go too far. You're going too far away from the reality. Here, israf in food is sometimes by consuming too much as well. On the other hand, it leads to development of many physical and spiritual illnesses, such as stern-heartedness and being deprived of the enjoyment of ibadah. What does that mean? Imam says, Al-mi'datu baytu kulli da'in. The stomach of yours is the house of all of the illnesses that exist. And so you could cure it. You could cure it by keeping it, at the balance, not feeding it too much. A lot of the ulama, when they would fall sick, there's actually a story of an alim scholar who traveled to Mashhad. When he went to Mashhad, he fell sick. And he was obviously, back in the days, you didn't go to a place for a day or half a day. You went for, days. So you could do your ibadat completely. You could fast there and so on and so forth. And they said, should we bring some medicine to you, whatever? He said, no, I'll fast for a couple of days. And usually when I fast for a couple of days, my illness goes away on its own. Usually the illness is caused with the things that I have consumed. And if I don't eat at the same amount every day when I'm fasting, when I deprive myself of food and drink for a couple of days, because my mi'dah, my stomach, the system, digestive system is cleaned up, Therefore, this illness also goes away. So a lot of the bacteria are in the food that is sitting. So therefore, this illness comes about. But when it's drained out, when it's cleaned up, there's no longer there. So al-mi'datu baytu kulli da'in. We see some people really go into, when they're praying, one of the examples that we had mentioned was the stern-heartedness and being deprived of the enjoyment of ibadat. So we see some people really go into the ibadat when praying or reciting du'as, tears coming down their cheeks. Yet we see ourselves that, on the night of Qadr even, on 15th of Shaban even, the most beautiful of the du'as by imams and masumin is being recited. It has the environment all set up, the lights are dim, everybody is reciting, people are crying and weeping, but we can't even shed one tear. Why can't we shed one tear? We just can't cry. There's no reason, for some reason, we're unable to shed tears. One of the reasons that was mentioned over here is that a hadith mentioned that one of the things that this lazzat from the ibadat is taken away from this individual. You're unable to enjoy the ibadat. One of the reasons why ulama ghayri amal, the alim bi ghayri amal, the one who does not act on his own knowledge, it says we take away the lazzat of the ibadah from the pleasure of worship. When the pleasure of worship is taken away, the person will not feel it the same way. He will not be able to weep. He will not be able to cry. Imam says, إِنَّمَا الْإِسْرَافُ فِيمَا أَتْلَفَ الْمَالِ وَأَضَرَّ بِالْبَدَنِ. Israf is that in which wealth is squandered and the body is harmed. Therefore, one thing is clear. Smoking, it has to be israf. Why? Wealth is being squandered and body is being harmed. So it's doing both of those things. Another place clarifies that israf isn't always spending too much. Rather, if you spend too much in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a good just cause, it is not israf. But if you spend very little in disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that very little, because it's going into the ma'asiyat of Allah, will be considered israf as well. So one of the results of israf is tughyan, is transgression. It says in Surah Taha, verse number 81, كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ وَلَا تَطْغَوْا فِيهِ فَيَحِلَّ عَلَيْكُمْ غَضَبِي. It says, eat from the good things with which we have provided you, and do not transgress or oppress others therein, lest my anger should descend upon you, and he upon whom my anger descends has certainly fallen, is ghadabi faqad hawa, has certainly becomes those who are misguided. So over here we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing these individuals who go to the extent of israf. Today, the reason I'm talking about this is because we see every day, alhamdulillah, large number of group of people come here on daily basis. MashaAllah, so many people are sponsoring, and so much food is sponsored. And when this food is sponsored, those who are left behind cleaning up, they have noticed this to a great extent that a lot of food is wasted. You see that sometimes, they take too much in their plates, and they're unable to eat. The same thing which was even not touched, the food which was even not touched, is thrown directly into the garbage. We've always grown up hearing this saying, I don't know, you have not, but when I was growing up, I've always heard that do not drop salt onto the floor. The more salt you drop on the floor, you will be responsible for picking it up with your eyelids. Why such harsh way of explaining this analogy? Because it's so difficult to pick it up from your eyelids. You will never be able to. You can try as much as you want to. Throw some salt on the floor and try to pick up. Salt is associated with food. It said when you can't do that with salt, don't do it with actual food. Because in food you have salt. In food you have actually the whole nourishment in it. So therefore the same law applies over there. The more you waste, the more you will be held accountable in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, to be giving answers as to why you were spending or why you were wasting so much food. So one thing that we can give tazakkur to ourselves is that we can take as much as we can eat, or so much so that we can eat, or actually filling yourself too much is actually not something which is recommended anyway. And also, when it comes to the children, make sure that we are looking at them, there's supervisor on them, or doing supervision on them, because the volunteers will not be able to look. And in fact, if volunteers go ahead and say something, it might backfire. It might even not look so good, because someone might come and say, why are you telling my kid to so and so, Sometimes this could be the reason. So that's why volunteers stay away from addressing those issues. It is your duty indeed, because your children are with you, to make sure that what they're eating, how they're eating, and how much food that they have taken. They haven't taken too much, that they eat 1 bite or 2 bites from it, and then they throw the rest away. We keep on reminding ourselves that in the world, so many people are suffering. So many people don't even have enough food to go by the day. Forget about in the month of Ramadan, outside of the month of Ramadan, throughout the year, there's not adequate food for the people. They're looking in the garbage for food, yet we are destroying so much food, and definitely we will be held accountable. Surah Taha verse 81 talks about the same thing. قُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. It says, eat from the good things which we have provided you, and not transgress or oppress others therein. This verse informs us that israf is among the major sins. What is the difference between major and minor sins? Well, difference is that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises a torment after a sin, it is considered to be a major sin. Whenever He says there's adab-e-ilahi, there's adab associated with that sin is considered to be a major sin. Whenever there's no adab attached with it, then it is either a minor sin or it is not a sin. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did He say? He says, فَيَحِلَّ عَلَيْكُمْ غَضَبِي. My ghadab will come upon you, or will be halal for you. In other words, my ghadab will be upon you. So when ghadab of Allah, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes halal upon you, therefore it is considered to be among the major sins. So in another place it says, وَأَنَّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ هُمْ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ. Now how could you get even, this is the extent of the verse. You can't even get more open than that. What it says, أَنَّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Indeed, the transgressors will be the dwellers of hellfire. Those who squander. And it's not just talking about squandering money, it's squandering wealth, or no, it's actually talking about israf and excessiveness in all areas of your life, all aspects of your life, whether it's food, whether it's time, whether it's wealth, so on and so forth. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So this was just a reminder, although I had other things to discuss over here. Just a reminder that, we keep an eye on the things, especially in this month of Ramadan, when we're already in the spirit of all of this. Imam says, although some of these things might be a little bit, you might say, well, Moulana is going at us and he's being sarcastic today, or he's addressing us directly, and these things are not very, easily digested, or not their pearls, their beautiful pearls of wisdom. They're actually coming out as advices and nasihat. I'll tell you a hadith. Our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, said, someone might go ahead and say that we're going overboard with all of this israf thing, and might feel offended. But don't feel offended, because although it's not a sweet discussion, but Imam says, ahabbu ikhwani man ahda ilayya uyubi. He said, my best friend is the one who points out my shortcomings. According to our sixth Imam, the one who points out your shortcomings and your defects is your best friend. Not the one who shows your defects, or one who shows your defects is the one your friend. Not the one who laughs at it no matter what you do, or looks over even if you have committed the biggest and the gravest of the crimes, and so no, there's nothing wrong with it. The best friend, according to the sight of Imam, is the one who's pointing out your defects. So we're all into this. We see that this is something which is happening. Waste is going on. Therefore, this whole Ramadan, we've been asking all of you to cooperate in staying away from israf, not just in food, and also in garbage as well. You know how we have set up the garbage so that we can lessen the garbage that is thrown away, to obviously help towards this green planet, so that this is our world, this is our planet, we are living in it, we're breathing in it, our children will be living in it, they'll be breathing in it. The way we take care of our houses, this is the last note and we'll end with this, the way we take care of our houses, our own houses, the cleaning and all the stuff that we do, masjid should be looked at as the same way as well, or if not more. This masjid is actually your house as well. It's the house of Allah first, but then it's also your house. So when you take care of your house by cleaning it, you don't ask anyone's permission to clean your own house. When you don't take the same opportunity by cleaning this house. Don't say, I don't have the permission. I don't have the permission to vacuum. I don't have the permission to sweep the floor. No, you don't need the permission to do these things from anyone, from management or whatever. This is just good action, goodness. You can just go ahead and volunteer yourself without anyone. So even in these days when we have larger gatherings coming in, obviously, kids going around, they might throw things here and there. There's nothing wrong, no harm in picking up things from here and there and throwing it into the garbage to keep this masjid clean. Every day when we come in, we see this masjid clean and beautiful the way it is, but make sure the way we take care of our houses, we take care of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the same way. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq to be able to follow these commands of Masumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah give us a tawfiq to be able to follow the footsteps of Masumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah hasten the zuhur of our weighted Imam and make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.